My name is David Brown. This is another video on toy dinosaurs. This time I have a bag of dinosaurs. So I'm going to unbag these, unbox. I had previously opened this bag, but I believe everything that was in here is still there, certainly the majority. And there's a range of things you can see. A lot of them are copies of much older designs, which I'll be going over. So, to start with, the first, this is count one, is a pteranodon, which, as I've previously shown, seems to have originated from the same sets as the Pachysaurs. So it's originally from the 70s. This is one from the 90s. You can already see some differences compared to this. Particularly, you have a straight crest, a bit shorter, and some of the details just aren't as sharp. It's clear that this isn't the original mold, but at least a few generations of copying from the mold, and they all have the same error. They've got feathers on one side, which could have worked for a fantasy creature, but on the other there's a wing membrane, which would actually have been realistic. Having them both, though, is just not correct, as I've ranted before. So that's one. Here's another. This is a Parasaurolophus. He looks kind of in the Pachysaur style, though you can see that he does actually look mostly like a real dinosaur, Parasaurolophus, except if you look closely, you'll see he has teeth. They did have some teeth, but mainly they had the big beak, which they call the duckbill, which isn't quite right. Here's another one I already had from a set very similar to this. This one might be a little bit better, though this has maybe a bit more obvious paint, and they both have their eyes in about the right spot. A lot of time people get that wrong, so this one isn't so bad. You're going to see we have some that are a lot worse. Now this is number 3, and it's not a dinosaur. This is a Windothere. I had another one of these. I don't have it right here with me. I really have two different sculpts of this that must have been originally for different manufacturers. This one is a bit bigger than another one I have. The way you can recognize these is that for some reason they have a hollow space. I've seen people say that these were already around in the 80s, if not the 70s. They've definitely been handed down through several generations. And speaking of that, here is a sauropod, much smaller than normal. You can see where it could have been very loosely based on a Marx Brontosaurus, which would have been several times this size. That's something else I don't have here in hand right now, but I've covered in another video. So that's 4. And this is another one that's not a dinosaur. This is a Dimetrodon, definitely a copy of one from Marx. Here is an actual Marx dinosaur. Again, you can see, well, not a dinosaur. The standard joke, these were more closely related, that is, to people than dinosaurs. but I'd call them dinos just as a description of the toy. You can see again the detail isn't as sharp on this one, but you can still clearly see they're based on a common design. It's also a bit smaller. And another thing, the shape of the mouth and the head isn't really like a Dimetrodon. It's actually closer to a relative of Dimetrodon that was called a Dilophosaurus. So that is 5. And here's one that doesn't look too bad. It's a Triceratops. Two weird things. The beak is a little odd, kind of like a finch rather than a Triceratops. And the eye's kind of strange. It almost looks like it's supposed to be sinister. I believe I may have seen this before, but when I was looking, I didn't find any ones exactly the same. So that is, pardon me, I'm counting 6. And here's one I did have. This is another that looks like a Pachysaur, though it's pretty good for accuracy. It's got a horn and a full frill. Here's one I found that must be from the same mold. Again, this was from a set. I'd gotten it at Walmart. And you can see from the front, this one's painted, and it's not too bad a paint job, which, as we're going to see, is a little bit unusual. Not much more to say about this guy, so that is 7. And here's another Triceratops. This is definitely based on marks. From the research I've done, confirmed marks themselves changed their mold specifically to make the horns thinner so they could get flimsy, though this actually isn't too bad. The horns are solid, they don't wiggle much, though if they're harder plastic than some, they might still break. That is then 8. And here's yet another Marks one. You'll see this guy everywhere. It's supposed to be either an Allosaurus or an Iguanodon, depending on where you look. I believe it's really meant to be an Allosaur. He just looks kind of sad. I'm sure I have had other ones of them. Again, I don't know if I could find any if I went looking. And that is 9. And here's probably based on a Marks figure, Ankylosaurus. Marks and MPC both did very similar Ankylosaurs, so these guys could have been working off either one. And here's one more Marks figure. It's a Stegosaurus. I had previously featured one that would have been included with the Pachysaur sets. And again, not a lot to say. Here's one I've shown before, an original Marks figure. This you can really see is smaller. And here's one more from the other set I already had. One thing that's different, this has paint. And here is something I've really been meaning to give his own video. I call this just the Abomination. It's one more Marks copy, but I really need to go into a little more detail. I might even buy one or two more specimens before I go through this and where the hell it came from. Again, I just call it the hideous abomination. It must be a very old design, but they keep making it. So that is, I'm just counting one more time. It should be 12. Yes, I just counted myself. 12 dinosaurs. 12, 13, or 14 is pretty usual. So even for these things, they might be shrinking this a bit. The one more thing, from all the indications I've seen, it's made by a company called Jaru. They're very ubiquitous. They might also have made the set this is from, but I would really need to look into that further as well. That's it for this video. Again, I'll definitely be covering at least some of this material in more detail. For now, I'm signing out.